Hey everybody! This is Dan, usually from Japan, but not today. Today I'm in Mexico, as you can see by the lovely reflection on this window. That's what Mexico looks like, you see? Now, with me, I have none other than Joe Armeanio. Say hi to everybody, Joe.
It's a pleasure to be here, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good week.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Well, we'll talk about the week in just a moment, but that's really good. That's your hope. Everybody had a good week. I hope so too. And who do we have here with us? Mr.
Hey guys.
Marty from ErgoPad. Say hi to everybody, Marty.
What's up, everyone?
And as we all know, ErgoPad is sponsoring that monolithic Ergo hack marathon right now. And yeah, really excited to see what comes out of the Ergo hack. I was saying this the other day while all the blood and the tears and the crumblings of mountains and monoliths were happening all around us. This community was still building. We're just like, well, whatever. Things go up, things go down, things go side to side. We still build, and we're still building. And I'm really, really, really stoked to see that. And I'm sure you are too, Joe. I mean, but it just seems like it's a Ergo kind of paradigm. It doesn't matter what happens in the market. The community just builds. We just make stuff.
Well, there's a lot of noise it's just external dependencies that we can't really do anything about other than observe and learn how to build things the right way. I think that having the ability to step back and look through the market at what is potentially revolutionary, but also really, break it down doesn't make economic sense. Are there design flaws? How can it be further made trustless or improved upon or made non-custodial? How can we adapt all of the different developments that occur across our industry and really try to build them with the principles that Ergo is trying to promote in the space?
Yeah, and I mean that's really what it's about. I mean, right, Marty? That's really what at people when there's a bull market, when everything's up, people are like, screw the fundamental. I'm here for the tech crowd. We know what we're all here for. But when this kind of stuff goes down, when you hit the bears, when you hit these big time, these big time, whatever you want to call it, shed breakdowns, whatever. Okay. You really find out who really here is for the long haul and who really here is just just as a tourist. I mean, isn't that right, Marty? I mean, you've been in the space for a while. You know what the difference is between people who are here to build and people who are here to just kind of like take a ride and then do whatever.
Yeah, I agree. What you see like every other time this has happened in the past is you get all these projects and you're looking at the market, you're like, what should I invest in? And if you start actually doing some research, it's hard to see anything of value that's up at the top. You get a handful of projects where you look at them and you're like, well, why did this raise to this level? And when you get a bear like this, it's nice to see a lot of those projects that it's difficult to have a strong thesis on. They start to fall off, and the ones that you can see are really doing something important, they tend to survive. So it's one of those checks and balances that just happen regardless of what you do. So it's nice on that hand. Of course, it sucks to look at your portfolio, but
yep, it's.
Yeah. But like the whole thing with the portfolio, as they say, I mean, Joe, this, it only hurts when you sell, and I'm not looking to sell. I've been saying this since the beginning. I have not sold a single erg, and I'm not going to sell a single erg. I'm only going to use the erg to if I'm going to spend it, I'm going to spend it on the ecosystem. I'm not just going to cash out because to me, I just don't see the point. I mean, of course, yeah, you want to take profit on whatever, that's okay, right? But to me, if I actually enter an ecosystem, it's kind of our friend Cardano Whale Ada well. He said it really well about I guess a while ago, maybe last year. I think he said it. That it's almost it's not just like you're going from one software package to another, right? It's almost like you're a citizen of a country, right? Because that's what it's about. You're in a community. It's sort of like a jurisdiction of its own. It's a digital jurisdiction, and you use the currency of the digital jurisdiction within that jurisdiction. Of course, you can use it outside, but it works best if you use it inside, right? It's got the most buying power. It's got the most economical sense to use it on the inside. And that's why that's how I see the Ergo ecosystem and the Cardano ecosystem. By owning both of these coins. Is this the same for you, Joe?
Yeah, this week has been interesting. You kind of people lose their risk assumptions, and when markets are hot, they just lose their risk assumptions, and then suddenly party's over, time to sober up. I think that this event certainly kind of created that mentality where suddenly, everybody kind of knocked them out of their inebriation, and they're saying, wait a second, I need to make sure that things that I'm doing track. And the reality is, I think you should, everybody should have some level of skepticism and doubt whenever they're putting their money into anything. And then, that's not true just in the crypto space. That's true if you're going to buy a house, buy a car, you should go around, check it out, kick the tires, get it inspected, make sure that you understand the risk that you are inheriting. And that mentality gets less and less and less when, the markets are hot and everything appears to be golden, but that's usually just a temporary phase in the market.
Yeah, it goes up, it goes down, it goes side to side, but we just stay here and we keep making things. Yep. And so, well, I brought this up. I know everybody's talking about this. I know everybody is looking at the charts. Everybody's looking at the portfolio, and some people are really depressed about it. Some people are not that depressed about it. Some people are happy that they're going to be able to come in at a lower price or whatever. But what the main reason why I brought this up, and I'm sure you guys will back me up on this, is the Ergo ecosystem is okay. We're fine. I've seen people worry about this. Oh, what if happens if the price goes? Look, we're in a really good place right now. If you compare it with when Ergo just launched, I mean, this is a really good place to be. I think that we will be just fine. We'll come out on top. We'll come out even 10 times stronger in the next bull market. And we don't have to wait for the next bull market to build. We're building right now. If, for example, with the help of ErgoPad, we're building now. This is what counts. This is the time that counts the most, because when the markets are hot, everything, like whatever you throw over the fence is going to work, right? Pretty much. I mean, you can sell, what are they selling? Bathwater NFTs on Cardano. And that stuff went up in price, something like that. It's like bathwater NFTs. And but that's the nature of the market. It's a speculative market. You do whatever you want. You throw it into a hot technology, and people are just going to scoop it up. But this is when it counts. And I just want to tell the community, and guys, I mean, you'll back me up on this, right? We are solid. There's nothing to worry about. We're solid. We're chugging along. We are at warp speed to blow up this community like you've never seen before. Am I correct?
Let me say, look at what Ergo was doing 6 months ago, and look at where we are now. There's so many new things coming out. There's so much new code out there and new software out there. Like we built staking contracts, vesting contracts. People are releasing NFTs in different ways. There's all kinds of things happening. There's 2 new wallets. We're just basically improving things for the user experience and building everything that Ergo needs to really like thrive in the next bull market, So if your thesis was 6 months ago was, yeah, Ergo's worth 17 and I'm willing to pay that much for it, then your thesis shouldn't be the same. It shouldn't have changed by now, because now Ergo is a lot easier to acquire. and a lot further along technologically. So just stick to your guns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if it has changed, I mean, if it has changed, sorry, Joe, I'll you can jump right in after this, but if it has changed, you really have to think about why you're here. I mean, if $17 Ergo had you excited about being an ecosystem, but a $2 Ergo does not excite you about being an ecosystem. If price is what excites you about being an ecosystem, then you should re-examine it. I mean, that's just my look at that's the way I look at it. What do you think about that, Joe?
Well, I think that Ergo has taken the time to invest and build a solid foundation. And sometimes, understanding what makes sense, focusing on assumptions, focusing on tools, focusing on, SDKs, is not sexy, but it's the part of the house you never see, right? Everything is built on top of the foundation that we've been building. And so, long term, ultimately, is going to be what creates a functional ecosystem. Is having a solid foundational tools. Otherwise, as things build, the weaknesses in the foundational design start to show up. So from my perspective, that has to be something that we do right, and we're doing a pretty good job in terms of saying, okay, the base foundation or primitives for DeFi, or the primitives for other projects that come and build, have certainly improved dramatically and will continue to. And ultimately, as the ecosystem develops over time, everything is going to be dependent on that foundation that's laid. It's sad to say, but with the Luna UST thing, they actually had a huge community that was building around that ecosystem, but the foundation itself was flawed. And if the foundation has issues, all of those people that invested not just their money, but from a development standpoint, their time, their energy, in terms of building on top of that foundation, are now in trouble. So ultimately, from the Ergo Foundation standpoint, and really looking at how we can serve the community best long term, we have to get that right. Otherwise, it just creates problems for everybody else long term.
Yeah, it has to be organic. The growth has to be organic. It has to be done the right way, because you can try to throw money at getting development done faster, and sometimes it works. If you just hire enough people and you pay them enough money, you could speed things up. It's possible, but community and fundamentals have to be organic. If those are flawed, then everything else on top of it is going to topple. It doesn't matter how strong things are on top of it. Doesn't matter how organic community is on top of it. If the fundamentals if the foundation is flawed, that's what's going to happen. And look, well, I'd say that, I mean, the Ergo community is a lot more, I guess, a lot more focused with it, without really kind of going around too much. I mean, sometimes I see it, but not going around too much and kind of, saying this project is that, this project is that. Cardano community kind of does that sometimes. I always say, look, don't knock other projects. Doesn't matter how, and that's just me. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying that's just me. Don't knock other projects. I mean, unless it's a complete scam, yeah, they have flaws, and let this whole market kind of cleanse itself. But you really have to think about with the Luna thing, right? They came out, and then these guys were actually, and I'm talking about the Cardano community right now, and then there were a lot. There was some toxicity coming from the Luna community on the Cardano community, and saying, oh, you guys are full of crap, and look at us, we're chugging along, or our market cap is bigger than your market cap, whatever. All this whole appendage measuring thing that we like to do in this space sometimes. And now, it just went down faster than BitConnect. If you guys remember how fast BitConnect didn't go down this fast, and yeah, some people might want to say, ha, 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 you guys suck. That's what happens. Don't. These are real people. These are people that there are obviously some shitty players in there, okay, that cause this kind of thing, okay, but the bulk of the community are just regular people, and a lot of these people they've lost everything. They've lost everything, and it doesn't matter what gets rolled out after this. Doesn't matter what the LFG does or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's never going to fix itself. Never. I don't see how they could fix itself unless they do like this whole, Doctor Strange universe reset thing that they did in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. And the whole point here is that, as much as some people might want to say, yeah, I told you so, don't. Instead, offer somebody who is in peril right now because of what happened with Luna a way to recover, if it recover in the Ergo community, and really understand where you can embrace the fundamentals, you can grow, show them a place of friendship, show them a place of welcome. The same with the Cardano community. I would like to ask everybody, who's watching this from the Cardano community to do the same thing. Let bygones be bygones and kind of let these people in. Give them a way to recover. And I think that's the only way we're going to grow. And that's when I think more and more people realize that building on fundamentals, like what Joe was saying, building a foundation is what saves you in these kinds of situations. Even if you're not the biggest kid on the block when the market is at its peak, when these kind of things happen, you're still here, and a bunch of those guys are not. And that's why this foundation matters.
And also, I do believe that, when you see either hacks or exploits or design flaws, the post-mortem, discovery, kind of the autopsy, is really one of the most important things we can do to make sure that we don't have any vulnerabilities or we don't inherit any of, past mistakes that are kind of being built internally in our ecosystem. I think that's one of the most important things long-term this industry can do, is when something goes wrong, that's the time to really understand, okay, well, what was the cause vulnerabilities, and then make sure that those kind of dependencies or design don't exist in our ecosystem.
Yeah. And look, guys, I know that I don't have to say this, but doesn't matter what happens in the market, build. Build. I know I say this a lot on social media, and I mean it every single time. Build. When my portfolio goes down a lot, I go back and I say, what am I building? What am I doing to make sure that it doesn't go like this, it goes like this. Okay. And there's a direct correlation because you're building business. And I'm a commercial guy, and that's the way I think. I can still see how it will better my financial situation if I stick to the fundamentals of the actual build and the ecosystem expansion, and just keep doing it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Speaking of which, Marty, just why don't you give us a bit of an update of what's going on with ErgoPad, how you guys what you guys are been doing in the past week, in the past couple of weeks with all this turmoil. How is just the operation progressing? I mean, I see a lot of really cool stuff. I'm in your Telegram group. I see a lot of awesome ideas coming through. I know you've done a few IDOs or doing a few IDOs. What's the general sentiment right now?
Yeah. Well, right now we're in the middle of the Ergo Lend IDO. So I don't want to speak for Chris, but they've been working hard in some places in the world to try and bring sort of financial backing to the unbanked of the world. So it's a really cool project, and he wants to really embrace how a DAO exists and really give people who are involved a vote and a say on how they grow their project. So ErgoLend is super interesting. They're right in the middle of an IDO right now. So come check out their project. In terms of our side, ErgoPad is we're continuing to build and develop. We're trying to build things that are more general purpose. So things that once we build it, somebody else can come along and use it. So we're improving our. We've got a bit of a Python backend now for anyone who wants to use the app kit but doesn't write in the other languages that it's meant for. So there's now a Python build that you can use, and that's on our GitHub repo. And I think it was a collaboration with a few other people. So the other thing is we've just recorded a video that showed we have a new dev who's getting up to speed on our platform and the backend code. So we're going to release a video on how he got up to speed and kind of the steps it took to be able to run that all the modules and actually dev on our platform. So like we're open source and we really want to contribute to the community and the ability for other devs to come into the community and build new things. So that'll be easier than ever once this video is out for somebody to come and launch our stuff and kind of see how did we solve certain problems. And in addition to that, we're continuing to optimize. We're working with the devs from Nautilus to think about better ways to connect dApps through wallets. We're launching a new generic staking contract. Anyone who's used our previous one knows it's kind of annoying to have a wallet full of stake keys. So we're releasing a staking contract where you can just add to your stake and you only need one stake key in your wallet. We're working with some EIPs a little bit to add some designations for NFTs where we're using utility NFTs rather than image or audio NFTs. So we've added a designation for that to try and expand that side of the ecosystem. What else? There's a lot going on. We've built off-chain bots. If you know how ErgoDex works, there's fulfillment bots that basically submit your transactions to help scale around the EUTXO platform. So we're building a generic version of that. So if you have a dApp, let's say you build a dApp that you need a little bit more frequent transactions than a 2-minute block, you'll be able to use our generic off-chain bots to satisfy that scaling requirement. Dan's falling asleep here.
Oh, no.
Should I go on or?
Well, no, actually, I'm not falling asleep. I'll tell you what I am doing. There are monkeys around here.
Oh wow!
Monkeys in these. They're these. Well, they're not monkeys. They're they call them. They say they're kind of like a half monkey, half raccoon. And I'm trying to see if one is like sneaking up right here to try to jump on me. They do that sometimes. No, seriously, they're like these little Mexican. They have their own name for them, but they're like half raccoon, half monkey, and they're all over the place. Like I would just walk and like run around here, and there's one you see me like. I know you guys are like, what is he looking at? There's one like right over there. It's on in the tree, and it's like getting closer. And there's one. It's like looking at me right now.
So what else are we doing, Joe?
Oh,
I'm not.
No, you know, I really enjoy what ErgoPad's doing. I think that for like the common user, they're kind of trying to take the development experience and give it more of a WordPress feel to where, you know, if you look at DAO, you look at off-chain bots, you look at some of the services that people can use to build, it just lowers the barrier of entry, makes it simpler, makes it more unified across the ecosystem. That's huge. That type of tooling is huge. So I love watching what they're pushing out, and then ultimately it's going to help them as a, you know, ErgoPad launch projects, because suddenly it's easier to launch a project. So there's a lot of synergy there that long term I think is fundamental to creating longer term growth value, good ideas, attracting talent. So I'm happy to watch.
That's kind of the theory behind it, is everything we build is a tool we need. So once we've built it, may as well share it with the community. So yeah, it's working well so far. So.
All right, guys. Well, That's I mean, it's great. I really love hearing all this awesome stuff that's happening in the community, happening with ErgoPad. I'm really excited about this project. Well, as you know already. So let me see. I'll just go quickly through my updates. Well, basically, we've been focusing on strategy, and I've been focusing on education, which is progressing. It's slowly progressing. There's some alignment that needs to be done with the university. It is progressing though, but I have to work at their speed because it is what it is. I'm hoping to get things resolved and basically get back on track probably towards the middle of this month, towards the end of middle to the end of this month, and so hopefully we can start actually announcing what we're doing at some point starting in Q3. Now, the exchange listing, the one that everybody wants to know about. How far along do you think we are, Joe?
I know that they're still testing the wallet integration, but that's proceeding. A big part of the back end of the events of this last week on exchanges, had to do with massive influxes of liquidity. So at some point, it was kind of all hands on deck situation there. So I'm sure that
Right.
didn't help us in terms of our integration, just because I'm sure
Right.
every dev at the computer was being pulled to, make sure that servers aren't getting overloaded. And I'm sure they're going to have a deep pile of help desk complaints to dig out of when you have that type of traffic. So it's still progressing. I'm happy to, give the community an update when I can. I did talk to one of the engineers yesterday, and it's still in motion, but I think there was a lot of infrastructure this week that was just on fire. So
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, guys, look, we're doing all we can to get this done, and there are other tier ones that we're going to be working with right after this. The bottom line here is that getting listed on exchanges alone is not going to get the ecosystem blowing up. What you're doing right now with ErgoHack, with all these projects, is what's going to make the ecosystem blow up. That's just how it works. Because if you don't have substance, substance. Sorry, I almost slept like 3 hours. Substance is something. If you don't have substance, the value is purely speculative, right? So that's why it's so volatile. But if there is something, if there is meat in there, then that's how you maintain the value, because you can actually quantify the value from something. So that's why you have to keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing it, guys. You're doing awesome, and you keep doing what you're doing, and that's how we're going to get up there where Ergo belongs. And I know I'm like sneaking up on Joe with this kind of shit, but with this Ergo hack, I will once again offer a personal bounty, a personal addition to the prizes that are being offered for the project that has the most impact on Ergo's commercial adoption. So I will, when these things are done, I will make, I will obviously go through all the projects. I promise to do it a lot faster than I did last time. I know I kind of lagged a little bit. I finally did it, but it took a little bit of time. I promise to do it faster, and I will pick a project, and I will let me roll around what would make sense as far as a bounty, as far as a prize. But it's going to be something that is definitely going to be, nice and usable for the development of the project. But mainly, what I want to see is something come out of this Ergo hack that is going to really just give a kick to commercial adoption of Ergo, because I so strongly believe that is one of our main trajectories that can take us into the stratosphere.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, do something in parallel. Generally, I'm going to reward documentation. The reality is, if you want to build something that's open source, a big part of that mentality is clearing the way for those that come after you. So documentation becomes not just what you can build, but you offer kind of tooling education for the person that's going to hopefully improve on what you did. So why don't we get to questions soon? We're eating time.
Let's do that. Let's do that. We've been talking I've been talking too much. I know it's not you guys, it's me. It's not you, it's me. All right, let's get to the questions. Let's see. What's a good first question here? Let's see. Here's a good quick one for Joe. Can you give us an update on the legal opinion in the U.S.? So what's up, Joe? I mean, that's done. Yeah, that's pretty much done. We have an opinion, and can you kind of give it a recap of what that was?
Sure. Ergo is a proof of work-based asset on a decentralized system. One thing that is unique that probably no other project can make is the fact that miners have ultimate custodial power in the network, to where even though we do have something like the Ergo Foundation, if all of us, decide to go on a trip and to see, the Mexican monkey raccoons with Dan and the plane crashes, ultimately storage rent is going to recycle the entire treasury over a long enough period. So ultimately the custody of the network is in the hands of a decentralized community.
Awesome. So listen, there's actually a good question here about the whole stablecoin thing, and so let's get it answered. So hi friends, could you please explain the concept of SigRSV again, and why people like me who think Erg is heavily undervalued should know about it? Why don't you have a whack at this, Joe?
Sure. So when the SigUSD framework first came out, there was I'm just going to call it like a misunderstanding in the community around SigRSV that hopefully, as Jed and other instances that are similar roll out, people understand. And that is that Sig Reserve is a representation of the value of the treasury, right? Of the assets held in the reserve treasury, not any type of instrument for longing Erg directly. Yeah, I think there was some confusion about that, to where people heard the word long and had a association in terms of, number one, leverage, which doesn't exist here. Made the distinction that they were trading on the value of Erg, and it's a representation of the value of Erg, but it's more complex than that, because the treasury balance is going to fluctuate based on other factors and conditions that you really have to watch. Now, Sig Reserve, unfortunately, is a zero-sum game where, if you are a Sig Reserve holder, a part of who you are trading against is other Sig Reserve holders, to where, ultimately, if you're in profit and you're trying to exit, you do want to kind of use potential race conditions to front run people that are also trying to exit, because if they exit first, it's going to, dilute the value of the treasury and, essentially move against your position. Now, longer term, having a over collateralized stablecoin is not sexy in terms of the short term capital efficiency of it. It's more of a I guess for most people at this point, it's more of a longer term, duration. Now, one thing that you have to make a certain assessment of is the use case of SigUSD. And what I mean by that is if SigUSD is being used on decentralized exchanges as a liquidity tool, it's going to have a longer shelf life in markets, meaning I might mint SigUSD and chase some type of return. And, in buying some other asset, Marty inherits SigUSD and he uses it and he chases a return. And then, when he sells it, Dan inherits it and, he kind of chases a return. It depends on the velocity of that stable coin. And one thing that the velocity of money is going to be dependent on here is the amount of assets that are available on the market, and also kind of the nature of the open environment, right? Whether people are feeling the need to chase risk or whether they are more of a risk off scenario. There's always that, temperature change in open markets. Being that SigUSD launched before DEX and before that market was fully established to use speculation as a means of, using it as a stable coin, the short side of it really has been the more predominant use case. And that's always been dangerous. I've tried to get people to understand that. I think that sometimes, speculation got the better of the community, but you have to understand that, number one, it's not a zero-sum game. Number two, it's more of a at this point, kind of an assumption that SigUSD is going to see a greater market adoption, which we're working towards, and ultimately becomes kind of like a bond-based instrument based on the treasury itself, not directly speculating on the price of ERG with any type of leverage. Hope that covered it.
Yeah, I think you got it pretty good. We actually have a question here from Marty from Saucer. And so what happens when the 36-month staking period ends? What will the utility for the ErgoPad token, what will be the utility for the ErgoPad token, and how will future projects be crowdfunded on ErgoPad platform? That's one is for you, Marty.
Yeah, that's a good question. So when the 36-month current staking contract ends, that doesn't mean that staking ends completely. At the moment, if you look at our tokenomics, there's going to be about 24 million ErgoPad tokens released to the treasury, and we're staking most of them right now and capturing some of the staking rewards. Some of those will be added to tail emission, which will continue the staking contract further. In addition to that, we're launching staking for several other projects. So many of the projects that IDO through our platform will launch staking through our platform, meaning we'll be collecting a small fee from that in that project's tokens. So those can be added to the staking rewards at the end or even during the 3 years. So in addition to that, there will be other things that come up over time. So yeah, we'll keep building now, and in 3 years' time we'll see where we're at. But any assets that the treasury holds can be added to a tail emission. So I think that covers that question.
Yeah. No, that's pretty exciting, actually. The way you got it all set up. So let's move on to the next question here, and this is something that's been, I've seen these kind of questions circulating in community, and I think is a good question to answer. So the question is: the current crypto space is dominated by VCs backing influencers who convince the average Joe who understands next to nothing about Ergo. How do we this? Well, look, from my perspective, sorry about the back noise here because there's a lot of stuff going on back here. Look, the way I see it is, we overcome this by building. I know I sound like a broken record with this, but we overcome this by building. We overcome this by showing that our tech is better, because if it's not a sustainable system, if this money is being pumped into an unsustainable system, it will bubble and it will pop. They always do. They always do. The same thing happened in the dot-com boom and the dot-com crash. The same thing's happening in the blockchain boom. They can pump all the money into it that they want, and they can pay off as many influencers as they want, and it will stick for a while. Yeah, okay, they will have a moonshot for a while, and a bunch of people are going to make billions of dollars. But in the end, we're still going to be here. We're still going to be building. We're still going to be growing. And all these guys are going to go away. And then new guys will come. And those guys will go away. It's a marathon. It's not like just the one match. So, I mean, to me, like I said, you overcome this by staying throughout the game. Just sticking to what you're doing, staying through it. And just adding more and more people who understand that what you're doing is important into the ecosystem, the grassroots way, the organic way, because those are the people that are the ones that are going to stick around. Those are the people that are going to be they're going to be building in the ecosystem. It's the same thing as buying followers on Twitter, right? You can buy all these followers on Twitter and make your account look like huge, you got 100,000 followers, but 70% of them are fake. Well, what is the point? They're not going to use your product. They're not going to support you as a community. They're just fake. They're fake bots, or they're fake accounts that nobody uses. It's the same concept here. I just see it as a temporary thing. Money cannot buy you an organic community. You cannot copy communities. What do you guys think about that?
Part of the question, I think, is also there's certain people coming in, the average Joe they mentioned, who doesn't necessarily understand the underlying protocol. And one thing we're thinking about when we build on Ergo is, what is the user experience and how can we improve it? How can we eliminate the need for the user to understand the tech in order to appreciate or use it? And so that's something I'd urge any developers coming into Erg to think about is, it's all well and good if we have the best tech stack out there, but if nobody can benefit from that because there's just no way for an end user to interact with that, then we haven't done anything yet. That's a bit disingenuous. We've done something, but we haven't gone all the way yet. So so that's what we're thinking about is the better we can build these platforms to make it easy for any user to take advantage of blockchain without having to understand blockchain. I think that'll help bridge the gap between people who just want to invest in something interesting and people who actually do understand the tech. So
yeah, that's absolutely it, and that's what I always say. And Joe shares the sentiment, and I see that Marty shares the sentiment as well. To really be able to gain mass adoption, you cannot expect everybody to know or care about what's under the hood. They don't have to. They don't have to understand how the blockchain works, how Ergo works. What are zero knowledge proofs? How does Ergo script work? They don't need to know that. They're not devs. They're not building on Ergo. They're using Ergo. So they don't need to know what's under the hood. They just need to know it works and that it gets their business done better than the other guy. That's all there is to it. And I strongly, strongly believe what you just said, Marty. And that is if the people who are building, the ergonauts who are building on Ergo right now, should always keep that in mind. That if you want a wide audience, you cannot expect to have a steep learning curve. It has to be quick. I mean, it has to be easy. It has to be straightforward, and it just has to work. And Joe, I'm sure you believe the same thing.
Sure. The one thing I would add to this question, probably the most valuable asset in life is trust. Just that simple. The most valuable asset, the hardest asset to achieve, and ultimately what really offers the most value, in my opinion, is trust. And so you can look at the short-term benefit of having the, I don't know, sales pressure, gimmick pitch, YouTube marketing influencer push. But if you don't back that up, you're going to absolutely annihilate trust in your project. So, you know, it's true. There's a lot of these projects that have, you know, very coordinated market access and very powerful marketing. But long term, more often than not, they lose credibility. They lose trust. You know, so one thing that you may notice in terms of Ergo is we don't go, you know, the foundation doesn't go around, you know, shilling or, you know, dancing and saying, you know, you have to buy us moon, da, 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 because ultimately that undermines credibility long term. And so I think that the space as a whole, you know, so oftentimes there's a short-term duration and focus. And if, you know, you're only focused at least on the back end in the short term, you are going to disrupt trust. And once that is destroyed, you destroy your community. As simple as that. So I think that we all always need to be sober, realistic, look at assumptions, look at risks, and understand what the challenges of the day are and communicate that versus, you know, everything's fine, we're the greatest in the world, da, 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 because when that blows up, the blowback of that is devastating. It's happened over and over and over again in the space. And then sometimes,
and not just with the Luna thing. I mean, it happened over and over and over again, like you said. You know, it's just Luna is the latest one, but every single time there's a community behind it. There are people who are left in the dust behind this. You know, and this is something we really need to cleanse. And hopefully, as the whole blockchain space matures, there are going to be less and less and less of this because. Well, look, it's this kind of stuff is not just exclusive to the blockchain space. You know, I saw this. You have no idea how much of this I saw during the .com boom back in the late '90s. It was, you know, because the market was just booming, you know, and the internet was getting hot, and everybody who, you know, if you knew how to deal with the internet, literally, I mean, look, I got hired by McGraw-Hill when I was 19 or something like that to do a full analysis of all their websites. This is 1998 or something like that. Okay, a 19-year-old with no college degree, just because he knew how websites worked. These guys hired me to do a full report on why they're not getting. So basically, SEO, what we call SEO today. This was like 25 years ago. I did for McGraw-Hill. Like literally out of high school, you know, but you know, and that's what happens. You know, these new technologies, you got this space that's really growing exponentially, and you have a lot of this stuff. You know, have a lot of what Joe was talking about. These, you know, weak foundations get as much money and as much and as much like oomph as you can, as much steam as you can, for as little effort as you can. Just if we like throw some money here, throw some money there, we're gonna go into the stratosphere and make all this money, and everything's gonna be amazing. And it's not, because it just all blows up. Sooner or later, something happens, and people start re-examining, and they say, "Wait a second, what am I putting my money into exactly?" And that's what happened with the .coms, and that's what's happening now. And yeah, so. Let's listen. I can go on about this all day. I know Joe is going to be really mad at me. He's going to send me threatening letters because, you know, he only looks kind. He only puts on this like really, really kind face, but really he's like, Dan, he's a monster. Yes, just a monster. All right, let's go.
I'm caught up on threatening letters.
Yeah, threatening.
You mentioned the '90s, and now you're talking about snail mail. He's gonna send me letters in the mail.
Yeah, it's scarier that way.
Yeah,
yeah, fair enough.
it just arrives. It's like it's a letter.
All excited to receive a letter in the mail.
Yeah, do they still have that? You know, the mail. So let's see. Oh, there's a good one. And actually, Joe, any news ETA for the Rosen bridge? And is it still on course for Q2? I'd like to know too. Is it?
Sure. I know that team is actually doing 2 bridges in parallel. This, at least in the last couple of days, weeks. You have Sussy Bridge, which they're trying to start with ETH. Rosen is in development. There's going to be more of an update on the tokenomics aspect of it, because that's actually an important security incentive in the bridge design, that there needs to be some form of slashing and or disincentive when false information is present. And so having that aspect of kind of the game theory side of security is still in development. I know a lot of the individual components have already been built and are being played with on testnet. So I think we're still on course, but the game theory side of it probably is going to be the harder part of the development, just because the path in terms of the infrastructure on the software side is known. But that's something that we really need to play with and put thought into, because ideally, if somebody does try to exploit or present false information, there needs to be a cost to that. And so, how are we going to create the right disincentives? Now, ultimately, if we look at the Rosen Bridge to begin with, there's going to be an initial guard set, and we also need to think about, okay, well, what's going to be the barrier of entry long term, so that new guards can, potentially come in and participate. Because ideally, I would like to see the trustless assumptions of Rosen grow as the network grows. I think that's an important consideration that needs to be taken into account, because ultimately we have a certain set of projects now that can kind of represent the custody aspect of Rosen, the second layer of authentication. But as more applications come online, I would like to see the threshold, the number grow as the ecosystem grows.
Let's see. We have a question for Marty. And let's put it up here. So what ideas have been kicked around in regard to the partnership with Anita BTC?
I don't know if we're ready to share much detail about that yet, but we're gonna be working together. We basically share code base, and we are gonna help them potentially set up a staking contract for Neta tokens. So that's something on the horizon there. There's a few other things in mind. We've got a bunch of their tokens now that we may be able to do a giveaway with, or potentially add to a staking contract somewhere. So there's some thoughts, but we don't have a lot of detail to share just yet.
All right, so coming soon, TM. All right, guys. Well, let's see. Let's go. I think we have time for one more question. Oh, and there's actually a nice question here that I saw. Yeah. So there's this one about. Okay, so I have been writing code for a couple of years now. Do you know anyone who is working on writing a book on ErgoScript?
In the short term, no, but I would love to see a lot of, the progress compiled and put into some form of book. But also, books also are probably a little bit more intimidating than something like tutorials. So it's hard to say whether or not that would give the user experience that developers are really looking for. I'm kind of on the fence about that. Sometimes I think that the participation and actual feedback cycle, it may be better for the majority, but there are certainly those out there that want to read. I like to say we need to learn from the success of the EVM model. They did amazing in terms of open source frameworks, collaboration between developers, building out tools to support the contract design and frameworks. And, the reality is they are older than Ergo script. So right now that's more of, the common standard across the crypto space. But that to me is just a result of documentation and software tools for developers that was well done. So I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. I think we just need to say, okay, well, what are the inherent benefits of the extended UTXO model? And instead of trying to say, okay, well, we're going to compete with them right out of the gate, we just need to follow the pathway that already has demonstrated to be successful. And over time, the strengths of the extended UTXO model themselves will naturally come about. And that's going to be how you create a parallel model that outcompetes the EVM.
Nice. Well, guys, I think that's a good place to leave off for today. Just wanted to let everybody know, it looks like I will be at Consensus in June in, what is it, Texas?
Yeah, Austin, I think.
Austin, yeah. So if any of you are going to be in the area, please let me know. Maybe we can even have a little bit of a Ergo meetup. I don't know if anybody's going to be there. Maybe we can put something together. Yeah, so let me know, guys. I'll be in the area. I'll be in the US, which doesn't happen too often, especially with this pandemic. But surprisingly, I'm actually going to be, I'm going to the US tomorrow and going back to Japan for 2 weeks and going back to the US for a week and then going back to Japan.
Oof.
And probably back to the US later. And then back somewhere else. But anyway, point is, I will be in the US. I'd love to meet you guys. If anybody is around, let me know. And like I said, I'd love to have a little, if we have enough people there, to have a little Ergo meetup at that Consensus. Maybe even Joe will come down from his mountain of bears and manhood.
Yeah, I'll think about it. Those events are always let's just use the word expensive for the common user or person to show up. That's the one thing I don't necessarily like, is the barrier of entry isn't necessarily friendly.
But listen, it's not, you know how it is with those events. It's not really about the event itself as much as it's about what's around the event.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, we'll talk about it, all right? But maybe you can get your 2x4 and your flannel shirt on, and your chainsaw in one hand, your bear spray repellent in the other hand. Come down the mountain. Maybe we can meet up and do a little, a little Ergo thing together in Austin.
All right.
And Marty, I mean, after you're done making all that maple syrup and telling us how to pronounce Newfoundland, maybe you can come down too. That would be nice.
Maybe I'll come see you in Japan one day.
Yeah, how do you pronounce it? Newfoundland? How do you say Newfoundland?
I guess they say Newfoundland. I don't know. That's the other side of the country.
Okay. Well, the only exposure I have to Newfoundland is through South Park, and I don't know if that's actually very accurate.
No. But they do, don't say Toronto. You have to say Tirana. So Tirana.
Like piranha. Like piranha. Okay.
And Calgary, Alberta is Calgary.
Calgary. Yeah. Well, I had we do have some Canadians with us here on our workshop, and they did expose themselves. They did expose. I mean, you guys talk like everyone else, but once we start talking, once we start talking about things out and about,
little sleeper agents everywhere, right?
That's when you give yourselves away. Yeah, because I was like, we're just talking, and he's like, so we're gonna go out. I'm like, oh, you're Canadian, huh? All right, guys. Well, I think this is a good place to leave. I left it, in a pretty weird vibe. Joe was just sitting there like, oh God, let this be over, please. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for joining. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Marty. Always good to have you. Please come back anytime. And thanks once again for actively sponsoring the Ergo Hack. It's awesome to see, to see ErgoPad just rock their way into the community and doing all this cool stuff. Love it. So, all right, guys. Well, this is Dan from Japan, but not really, from Mexico, fighting the evil monkey raccoons and whatnot. Signing off.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.